Thank you for joining me. This is the Spiritual Princess, and I wanted to talk about mediums' do's and don'ts. And a lot of these are common sense, but for the medium in training, you must never use your abilities to hurt others or use them to gain the upper hand over somebody. So never use your gifts to cheat on anything. My guides say if abilities are used to take something away from someone, that isn't good, so don't do it. So the first thing you should never do as a medium is attack readings on strangers. Mediums have to be responsible people, and being responsible means refraining from what I call attack readings. Those types of readings come from a place of ego. So approaching strangers in public and forcing your gifts onto them is much like an attack. It's like watching your neighbor shower through a window. Any violation of privacy is wrong. So don't show off your abilities by accosting strangers in public places. I never do that. It's bad enough that most people believe mediums are always connected to the other side every second of every day, but that's not the case, at least not for me. That's not how it works. And I have felt uncomfortable around people when they know what I do, and I think they're waiting for me to share some kind of message unexpectedly. So as a medium, I mentally close my abilities off unless I'm working so I can live my life. I know that some mediums walk around open to the spirit world 24/7, but it's not a good way to live. And I have known mediums who did not want to put the proper training or work required to become really proficient. Instead, they were just desiring to be famous or recognized. My goal in working with mediumship is to teach and heal others, not to become famous. And I'm not saying becoming recognized is negative. Being well known is not always good because being renowned comes with various problems in dealing with the public. You open yourself up to scrutiny on many levels. I just feel if anybody becomes highly acclaimed in this work, the universe will align specific opportunities in somebody's life. I focus on being celebrated for teaching and writing, helping others heal through the connection to spirit, but that's my choice. A medium not on television, radio, or has a lot of books for sale doesn't mean they are less accomplished than a well-known medium. It just means they're putting themselves out there differently and not all about feeding one's ego. And that doesn't mean I believe famous mediums are about serving their ego, but I have met many mediums that were. I have seen it all. I have witnessed the egotistical medium that wants to impress everyone by showing off their talent, and it's kind of comical to watch somebody desperately wanting that type of approval from strangers. But it angers me because, in my opinion, that is an invasion of their privacy, which is wrong. And we see this often portrayed on television shows where the medium walks up to a stranger and gives them messages on camera. And I went to school to work in television, so please understand, those television shows are arranged and usually predetermine who the medium will read. The people involved have previously agreed to be a part of the show by signing a personal release that gives the film producer the right to film them for their project and then use that footage on television for entertainment. The type of medium I'm referring to that do attack readings, these are people who don't care what another person's religious or spiritual beliefs are. They will spout information to strangers in hopes of impressing them. And I have seen this backfire on a medium when the person they're giving a message to gets upset and tells them no and refuses to accept any information being presented. It happened many times to a former colleague of mine who stopped doing readings because she claimed to be tired of people not believing in what she had to say. That medium should have kept their ego in check because she could have avoided many negative encounters with strangers and not felt the need to give up on her learning about her gifts. So I advise all mediums not to be persistent with people they don't know. especially if they are not seeking your services for healing from a loss. If you must give a stranger a message, I usually just speak to them privately and explain what I'm doing and ask them if I can provide a message. And I say something like, I was drawn to you and know that I'm a medium who connects with those who have passed on. Are you open to hearing a message from the other side? If the person says no, you must respect their decision and politely walk away. As mediums, we can't yell out the message or chase them down to give information. Instead, we can just hand them a business card and tell them they're welcome to contact us for a private reading if they change their mind. But mediums should always be courteous and respect anybody's religious and spiritual beliefs, even if they don't align with your own. So that's number one. So number two is the inexperienced medium. Some inexperienced mediums will give messages, but most of the information will come out wrong, or the medium incorrectly deciphered the message from spirit. And it is common when a new or untrained medium, they have good intentions, but it takes years of practice and dedication to become confident with the information we receive. And since our guides and angels and spirits in general speak to each of us differently, a new medium must be familiar with how the connection to the other side works best for them. If the medium needs more experience or training, the information they may share is not accurate or as good as someone who has been doing the work for a long time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about clients who are not open-minded. Whether you are a psychic medium in training or an advanced medium, reading for someone who is not open-minded will make it difficult for you to connect to that energy. If they are not spiritually open, a medium will sense that that person is blocked, meaning the medium either has difficulty turning into that energy or cannot connect to the energy. Generally, the individual is not aware of that blockage, but people like this make my job as a medium challenging to communicate with their loved ones. And as you do this work, you will find that some people are easier to read than others, and it has to do with how open-minded they are to the experience. Now, there will be times when doing this work will cause a medium to draw a line with a client, especially if a medium feels the person isn't open to the process. And it might seem odd that someone would not be receptive to hearing messages from their loved ones, but it actually happens, and it's very odd to me, but it happens. Another medium I know, he began to read for a woman who made an appointment with him, and he could sense her negativity from the start. She was not open to listening to him. She started calling him a fraud. She became hostile during their time together. And this poor medium was rattled, but he kept his calm and continued his messages. The woman did not want to hear what her loved ones wanted her to know, so she lashed out on this guy. And if something like that happens, the best thing to do is to stop giving messages and say that you feel that neither one of you is getting anything out of the session. And if they'd like to reschedule for a later date, they can, but for now you don't feel it's a good time. Mediums do not have to tolerate somebody's abuse. Please be aware that the loved ones on the other side usually give messages to a client that they may not want to hear, but they need to hear to heal. So that's pretty common. And as a medium, we cannot control which loved one steps forward to say hi or to share whatever message. It is their process. And as the medium, we're only a conduit used for communication. We're not professional therapists, but I tell people who want to learn this to learn some basic counseling techniques that include active listening, which is listening with empathy or creating a nurturing environment. Be aware of body language, tone, etc. Remember that communication is 55% body language, 38% tone, and 7% words. So clients may not remember everything a medium said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So a medium should be mindful of the tone of their voice, Are you talking too high, too low, loud, soft, fast, slow, lighthearted, gloomy? These are things to be aware of when sharing messages. Okay, so moving on, the next one is self-sabotage. This happens when a medium does not take the time to understand a message. Instead, they rush through the process, sabotaging the reading because they are not connecting with spirit or relying on the message, the true meaning of the message that somebody needs to hear. A medium might do this because they're uncomfortable with the feelings or emotions or information they're receiving. But still, it is being communicated that way for a reason, primarily to help someone heal and move on from that painful experience. When this happens, the medium damages the meaning and misses the heartfelt message, making it less effective than it should be for the person receiving it. So mediums must feel these strong emotions so we can express them to someone effectively. When I began giving readings in a group or class setting, I noticed that certain people who attended regularly would not receive a message. And my guides explain why that happens. So here's a question. Why is it that I haven't heard from my departed loved ones when I keep asking for a message or a sign? I've been waiting for years to hear anything from my grandma, and so far nothing. I feel like they've abandoned me. My guides say sometimes not receiving a message is a message. So this can happen because you need to work on yourself to open yourself up to the divine communication. If everyone could easily communicate with those they have lost, that person would never move on and heal from their passing. People would constantly seek this type of spirit communication to make them feel better. A spirit might intentionally not want to be in contact because it would take away from someone's learning and growing spiritually. Death is a process for all to go through and learn from. People who constantly seek mediums for this type of interaction are seriously misguided and should never use it to make someone stop hurting. The pain of losing a loved one is a lesson and it needs to be experienced. Okay, so moving on to medium don'ts. Mediums are not therapists. A medium is responsible for not seeing clients constantly seeking that connection. If somebody does that, it tells me that that person is not healing from losing a loved one. And these people need a professional therapist to help them through the grieving process. Normally, a medium is not a trained psychologist and should not replace the need for somebody who genuinely needs to be seen by a qualified psychiatrist. I often tell people that it's not advisable to sit with a medium for at least a year after losing a loved one. Even though there's no time limit, it is more for the living. The living needs to honor their grieving and their feelings for that loss. When a physical connection to a loved one is lost, people need to respect their feelings instead of fearing them. They need to go and get on a path of healing, not dependency. Friends have reached out to me after losing a loved one. Right after. But it is suitable to tell people they need to allow themselves time to endure that healing process and encourage them to wait so they can honor their feelings. Plus, on the other side, their loved ones need time to adjust to their new circumstances. Mediums are spiritual healers and teachers, but it's up to the person to do their own healing after a loss. That's why I also discourage people to get a reading every 6 months or every couple months. I make people wait a year because if they're constantly trying to get messages, that isn't good. So here's another question somebody asked. As a new medium, how do I move on when feeling stuck with a message? Especially when the exercises don't work because I'm too overwhelmed to hear the answer. My guide says if anyone gets to a point where they are so overwhelmed in doing this work, they need to stop and reevaluate if this type of work is really for them. Doing this work comes naturally for most mediums, and they tend to be people who can handle hardships and are strong in body and mind. Once they develop their senses, and practice giving readings, you get more confidence and trust their guides, angels, and loved ones. But doing this work should never be overwhelming. And one very important thing to know is, as a medium, we do not control who comes through to share news from the other side. And I have felt anxious when I start reading for somebody because there are no guarantees a message will even come through for that person. So I have to often tell people this is their process, not mine, and I have no control over it. So here's another question. I am wondering how to deal with anxiety that comes with having mediumship abilities. My guides say dealing with anxiety caused by spirit energy is easy. You must learn grounding techniques for relief. Like if you love being out in nature, meditating outdoors is the best way to help with anxiety. By feeling the warmth of the sun, feel the ground beneath your feet, or even plant something, sit and relax. Any of these will help with anxiety of doing this work. If you do not like the outdoors, then my guides suggest taking a bath and adding salts like Epsom salt or sea salt. The salt water will absorb and calm the additional energy so you can rest. I don't know any medium that I've ever either known or worked with. They tend to have a lot of anxiety, including myself. I get tons of anxiety when I have a lot of spirits waiting to be crossed over, and I don't let them in my house, so they have to wait outside, but I can feel their anxiety and they're uncomfortable or they're sad or they're just like, come on, help me. And so mediums tend to feel a lot of anxiety. Okay, so to wrap this up, I'll read one last question, and I feel like it's pretty important for a lot of people to understand. The question is, why don't mediums try to solve at least some of our world's greatest mysteries? I, for one, would love to know if Lizzie Borden is guilty or innocent. Who killed John Bonet? Did Lee Harvey Oswald kill JFK, and did he act alone? Was he a patsy? Who did kill JFK if not Oswald, etc.? So my guides say the people involved in horrific events had lessons to learn in that soul group. Unbelievably, murder is a lesson. Killing another is certainly not how anyone should teach lessons, but it is a huge lesson for the person who commits the crime. They will be made to see how what they did affects everyone involved, and murder is a horrible ripple effect as it causes a lot of other lessons to be cut short by the person or people they have destroyed. The victim's friends and family are robbed of these lessons they would have been part of in that lifetime, and it is not the job of a medium to resolve all the mysteries of the world or past murders because there was insufficient evidence to convict somebody. People do not get away with anything because their crimes follow them through many lifetimes and create countless problems for them in the future. People need to let go of being the judge and jury when bad things happen. Yes, it is hard for you to see, and that is a lesson about compassion for others, but to think it is the responsibility of a medium to solve everything that goes wrong in the world is foolish. The only way that a medium can be helpful when something tragic happens is if the victim's immediate family asks for a medium's help. Otherwise, a medium should never get involved in somebody else's life lesson. That would be egotistical of the medium to do that. It is one thing for a medium to want to help find a missing person, and it is quite another to inject themselves into somebody's horrific life event to be a part of it. People cannot change the outcome of some experiences, and if a killer is not caught, that is a lesson about improving our criminal justice system. Many notable changes are made when tragic events happen. New laws are sometimes implemented or technology changes to improve. And I, for one, had to learn that there are reasons for everything. It can be frustrating because we want to save the world from dangerous events, but we can't. Instead, I have to try to see the bigger picture of how the universe works. and all the unpleasant lessons people need to learn to evolve. So, mediums need to help others heal from tragic losses only when asked. Our job is to help spirits cross over when they can't find the light for themselves. And I do wish police would use mediums more often, because if they did regularly, it would help solve more crimes faster and more bad people would be put away. There wouldn't be so many innocent people that had to be affected by crime. So one day, this type of work will not be revered as entertainment or sorcery by law enforcement, and hopefully be taken seriously to help others in the world. So hopefully that helps you understand what mediums should and should not do. And have a great night. Love and light.